Welcome back to StoicThryve, the place where ancient Stoic wisdom meets modern self-mastery. Today's topic is not easy, it's confronting. But sometimes, the most uncomfortable truths lead to the greatest personal breakthroughs. We're breaking down 12 reasons why people might secretly hate you, not to judge, but to help you grow. These are behaviors you might not even realize you're doing, habits that can quietly erode respect, trust, and connection. Stoicism, at its core, is about facing reality head-on. And that includes facing the reality of how others might perceive us. This video isn't about pleasing everyone. It's about becoming someone worthy of genuine respect, through virtue, emotional control, and self-awareness. Some of these reasons will challenge your ego. That's exactly why you should pay attention. Because the path of the Stoic isn't comfort, it's clarity. Before we dive in, do one thing. Pause. Reflect. Be open. And if you're serious about growth, hit like, subscribe, and share this video. Let's do the hard work together. 1. You talk too much about yourself and think too little of others. Let's start with a hard one. People secretly begin to resent you when every conversation revolves around you. Maybe you don't notice it. You're sharing your wins, your struggles, your stories, and you think you're being open. But over time, people feel like props in the movie of your life. The Stoics were deeply aware of the power of humility. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that he was just one small part of the greater whole. He wasn't the center of the universe. Neither are we. If you always pivot conversations back to your experience, if you rarely ask follow-up questions or genuinely tune into others, people feel dismissed, even if you're not trying to be rude. They start to feel invisible. And when people feel invisible, they disconnect emotionally. They nod, they smile, they keep it polite, but deep down, they've already checked out. You want to build real relationships? Talk less. Ask more. Listen deeply. Be curious. A Stoic seeks to understand before seeking to be understood. Because connection isn't built through self-expression alone. It's built through mutual presence. 2. You're always negative and it's draining everyone around you. Negativity repels. Period. When every conversation is coated in sarcasm, cynicism, or complaint, people begin to associate your presence with emotional weight. You become the cloud that darkens their day. Even if you're funny, even if you're smart, people start to dodge your energy. Stoicism isn't about pretending everything is fine, it's about confronting challenges with clarity and discipline. A Stoic doesn't whine, they work. They don't complain endlessly about things outside their control, they focus on what they can change. You might think venting builds connection, but constant negativity erodes resilience. It's emotional laziness masked as being real. People feel heavy after talking to you. They feel drained instead of uplifted. And when people feel that way often enough, they'll start to avoid you. Not because you're a bad person, but because they're protecting their peace. Want to change this? Shift your language. Be aware of how often you complain. Practice gratitude. Lead with solutions, not problems. Don't perform positivity, practice inner discipline. That's what the Stoics did. And that's how people learn to respect your presence. 3. You try too hard to impress, and lose respect in the process. When you try too hard to be liked, people might smile, but inside, they recoil. Whether it's showing off money, knowledge, connections, or experiences, the energy of trying leaks through. And it feels insecure. Because it is. A Stoic walks in quiet confidence. They don't need to parade their value, they embody it. They know that virtue, not validation, is the measure of a good life. When your self-worth is tied to attention or praise, you become performative. You exaggerate. You name drop. You talk over people. You're not trying to connect, you're trying to be admired. And here's the truth. Admiration doesn't equal connection. People might be impressed, but they won't feel close to you. Eventually, the performance gets tiring. People begin to question your authenticity. They feel like you're more invested in their opinion than their presence. And that erodes trust. If you want to be respected, stop trying so hard to be impressive. Be present, be genuine, and let your actions speak louder than your image. A Stoic knows that the real flex is self-mastery, not self-promotion. 4. You don't respect boundaries and people resent you quietly. Sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you act. Ignoring people's time, space, and emotional limits is a quiet trust breaker. It builds resentment slowly, under the surface. You might think being persistent is a virtue. Or that closeness means constant access. But real closeness honors autonomy. A Stoic respects the natural rhythm of others' lives. They understand that respect isn't about access, it's about alignment. If you over-message, overshare, show up unannounced, or push people to open up before they're ready, you create discomfort, even if your intentions are good. That discomfort grows into avoidance. People start to pull back, set firmer walls, or ghost you entirely. Not out of cruelty, but out of self-protection. You want people to feel safe around you. Respect their space. Listen to their cues. Don't take silence personally. Don't mistake closeness for control. A Stoic leads with patience, not pressure. The irony: when you give people room to breathe, they often move closer. Because trust grows in spaces where freedom is honored. 5. You're quick to anger and it makes you look weak, not strong. Anger is often misunderstood as strength, but Stoics knew better. Anger is usually just a lack of control. A reactive person is a person who hasn't mastered their mind. And people instinctively pull away from emotional volatility. If people feel like they have to tiptoe around your moods or walk on eggshells in conversation, they won't feel safe. They'll feel tense, guarded, and eventually, distant. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we should meet offenses with calm and reason, not fire. Epictetus said that we're disturbed not by things, but by our judgment of them. So when you lash out at the small things, a delay, a disagreement, a joke, it reveals more about your lack of inner peace than about the situation itself. People don't respect anger. They fear it. Or avoid it. Neither of those responses builds connection. Want to be someone others trust and admire. Learn to pause. Breathe. Reflect. Respond. Don't react. A Stoic's strength lies in their stillness, their composure, their refusal to let emotions rule them. Emotional control isn't suppression. It's mastery. And it's one of the most respected traits a human being can develop. 6. You gossip or speak ill of others and lose all credibility. Gossip might feel harmless. Sometimes even entertaining. But the person listening to you gossip is also mentally filing this truth away. If they talk this way about others, what do they say about me when I'm not around? A Stoic values honor, discretion, and truth. They don't waste breath on small talk that tears others down. because they know that speech reflects the soul. If your mouth is always filled with petty commentary, assumptions, or rumors, it reveals a lack of discipline, a lack of depth. People might laugh with you while you gossip. They might even contribute. But over time, they'll begin to distrust you. They'll wonder what your true opinions are. They'll keep their vulnerabilities hidden, and eventually, they'll keep their distance too. If you want people to feel safe and respected around you, speak like someone who protects dignity, even when the other person isn't in the room. That's not weakness. That's power. A Stoic knows that words should build, not break. And every time you gossip, you chip away at the very foundation of trust. 7. You never admit when you're wrong, and it makes you small. Nobody enjoys being around someone who's never wrong. It's exhausting. And over time, it becomes disrespectful. Why? Because it tells others, your view, your truth, your perspective doesn't matter. Only mine does. A Stoic recognizes that truth is greater than ego. When you're wrong, admit it. Not reluctantly. Not passive-aggressively. Just plainly. People respect honesty far more than stubbornness. If you always double down in arguments, twist facts, or change the subject to avoid accountability, people notice. They might stop challenging you altogether, but not because they agree. Because they've given up. And that's a clear sign of lost respect. Humility is not self-deprecation. It's real strength. It says, I'm secure enough to grow. And when you model that mindset, people will not only trust you more, they'll want to follow you. The Stoic doesn't fear correction. They welcome it. Because they understand that being corrected is just another form of being taught. 8. You constantly compete with others and undermine relationships. Competition isn't always bad. But when it seeps into every conversation, every achievement, every shared moment, it becomes toxic. If someone shares good news and your reflex is to top it, compare it, or one-up it, it tells them you see them as a rival, not a teammate. That dynamic destroys connection. It turns joy into tension. It turns friendship into a scoreboard. The Stoic seeks inner excellence, not outer domination. They aren't driven by envy. They're driven by virtue. That means they celebrate others, without needing to insert themselves. If your relationships are starting to feel cold or distant, ask yourself, do I support their wins, or silently compete? Because people can feel that energy. And even if you never say it out loud, your vibe tells them everything. Instead of trying to win in life, try to uplift. Respect isn't earned by stepping over others. It's earned by walking beside them. 9. You make everything about you and people feel dismissed. There's a difference between sharing and centering. If every story, every topic, every emotion someone shares is immediately redirected to your own life, it signals something deeper, that you're not really listening. People want to feel seen. When they open up, they're inviting you into their emotional space. But if you hijack that moment, even with good intentions, they feel pushed aside. A Stoic understands the power of presence. They know that the most respectful thing you can do is hold space, without making it about you. If someone shares grief and you reply with your own story of loss before truly acknowledging theirs, that's self-centered. If they celebrate a win and you shift the focus to how you've done something similar, that's self-centered. You don't have to stop sharing. But learn to listen first, reflect second, speak third. People remember how you made him feel, and feeling heard is one of the most powerful gifts you can offer. 10. You're unreliable and it destroys trust quietly. Being unreliable doesn't always look like betrayal. Sometimes, it's smaller, being late, canceling last minute, forgetting plans, overpromising and under-delivering. But over time, these small moments add up to one loud message. You can't count on me. Stoics hold their commitments seriously, because they know that discipline is a form of respect, for others, and for oneself. When you're consistent, people feel safe. When you're flaky, they stop trusting you. They stop inviting you. They stop depending on you. And eventually, they stop showing up for you too. You don't need to be perfect. But be accountable. Do what you say you'll do. And when you can't, communicate clearly and own it. That kind of reliability is rare. And it's deeply respected. 11. You're judging others constantly and it reveals insecurity. Judgment is often projection. When you constantly critique others, their choices, their values, their appearance, it says more about your inner world than theirs. People feel this. And even if your judgments are subtle, the raised eyebrow, the sarcastic comment, the passive-aggressive joke, it creates a vibe of superiority. And nobody enjoys being around someone who constantly makes them feel small. A Stoic mind is curious, not critical. They know that everyone is fighting their own unseen battle. That every person has their own reasons, shaped by their own context. They don't excuse bad behavior, but they seek to understand first. If you want deeper relationships, trade judgment for compassion. Seek to know before seeking to critique. The more you judge, the more you isolate. The more you understand, the more you connect. 12. You lack purpose or direction and it pushes people away. People are drawn to energy, vision, and clarity. When you're aimless, drifting through life without intention or drive, it doesn't just affect you. It affects how others view you. You don't need to have every detail figured out. But when your life lacks direction, it shows up in your actions. You procrastinate. You give up quickly. You follow rather than lead. And people begin to lose respect. A Stoic lives with intentionality. They know that a life well lived is one shaped by virtue, not circumstance. They don't wait for clarity, they create it. If you want people to believe in you, believe in your path. Move with purpose. Set goals. Hold yourself to a standard. The moment you start honoring your potential, others will begin to honor it too. If you recognized even one of these 12 reasons in yourself, take that as a win. Because awareness is power. And the Stoic doesn't fear self-confrontation, they welcome it. This video wasn't about shame. It was about truth. Because growth begins where denial ends. Now the challenge is yours. Which of these habits will you face head-on? Which one will you work to change starting today? If this video gave you something to think about, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to StoicThryve, and share it with someone who's ready to grow. Remember, the goal isn't to be liked by everyone. It's to be someone worthy of genuine respect, trust, and admiration, built on virtue, not vanity. Stay grounded. Stay disciplined. And stay rising.